Our next guest is an award-winning film and television writer, director and producer. She's been working with the written word for more than 20 years. She produced her first professional play at the tender age of 13. And she is now a screenwriter, and we can remember her for her 2014 box office hit film, Happiness is a Four-Letter Word. But let's take a look now at some of Busisiwe Ntintili's work.
Lies all this time!
Guys, why all this drama around these men? I thought they were just meant to be like a light distraction.
Come on, come on. Come on, come on.
Wow, Busisiwe, welcome to Afternoon Express. Finally, we got you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be on.
You have such an incredible mind, and we can sit here all day and just talk about your CV and all of your accomplishments. But where did your love for the written word start?
Sure. I mean, I've been writing since I could walk, basically. And I'm lucky to have found my passion early. Some people find it late in life, some people find it early, and I found it very early. So, I was writing from the age of, primary school, age of 5. My parents always joke that they kept the first short story that I ever wrote, which was in kindergarten, where I grew up overseas. So I started writing then as a young child, and also growing up, there were a lot of arts programs during my time, a lot of arts initiatives in schools, which is why it's so important to have art in our schools. And so I did that. I did theater. I did all kinds of things. So by the time I was 13, I was part of a competition in America for young playwrights. And I wrote my first play, and I won the competition in my particular state of New Jersey. And my play was, I got to direct it myself, and it was directed with New York Broadway actors. So I already had a first taste of being a professional writer and director at the age of 13 as well.
And now you've got 20 years under your belt in the industry, where you've seen film and the television industry go through many changes over the years. But now, Busisiwe, we have seen one of the biggest changes. Now we're faced with a global pandemic. So what is the current state of the South African and, I suppose, global film industry?
Nobody could have predicted this story of 2020. And so what it did is it forced all of us in the industry, and I work both locally and internationally. So I work on projects that are for South Africa and for the rest and for the whole world. And it's forced us to rethink how we do things. Obviously, we had to shut down. We had to shut down when this thing came to South Africa around March. So we were shooting a project at the time when we shut down. And I know a lot of local soapies did as well. And it's forced us to really have to be creative and think outside the box to say, okay, we still have to tell stories. People still want to see stories. How do we do it in the safest way possible?
And let's dive deeper into that. You are a storyteller by nature. So how do you think this will evolve the current times that we're facing?
Well, right now, we're about to go back to shoots, and I know my colleagues, some of them have already gone back to shoots on their shows, and we had scenes where there was ginormous crowds and lots of extras, and right now that simply cannot happen. So we've had to reimagine some of those scenes, still tell the story in an exciting way, but without a huge stadium, for instance. And so it forces you to think, okay, how do we do this? Do we make use of some of the technology we have, like, virtual reality, which has come up, which really can create 3D worlds, in an empty studio. And it's kind of green screen in the future now.
I love the fact that you're so positive about it. A lot of times, a lot of people would cry over restrictions and feeling like there's boundaries and they're being held back. But you are smiling in the face of challenge.
Life is going to throw you curveballs, and if you're not prepared to roll with the punches, and if you're not prepared to adapt, then you're going to easily be defeated, so you really have two choices, is to adapt and change, or get left behind. So that's always sort of been my motto in life. And so when adversity comes, you have your moment when you're, everyone has that moment of being sad or depressed or feeling, defeated or frustrated. But then you have to be like, okay, what can I get out of this situation? And look at the positives. Look at what you do have. Look at the health that you've been given. I mean, like, there's so many things to be grateful for. And we all have brains. We all have talents. So let's go.
So what message do you have for South Africans right now that might be encouraging, uplifting, that they need to hear?
So I think my message for South Africans, I think we're going through a tough time right now, and where the rest, other places in the world have sort of passed their peak, we're only now reaching our peak in terms of this pandemic, and it's the middle of winter. But I think one thing I love about South Africans, and I love about us, is our resilience, is that we have been through the worst of the worst. We've been through apartheid. We came out on the other side. We fought it. We beat it. We've been through other things. And you see it from our youth from 76 who were fighting then. You see it in our youth now, in university campuses who are fighting for their freedoms today. You see it with women who are saying enough with gender-based violence. We're not going to be just killed by our men in this country. So I think we have a spirit, we have this warrior spirit as South Africans. When there's injustice, we stand up and we fight. So I think in these times, it's important for us to dig deep down and remember who we are, which is that we are warriors and we are fighters and we fight for our freedom. And we will have that again.
Absolutely. It's about reminding yourself of who you are and reminding yourself about that vision. And your lifelong vision is to work to contribute to restoring the pride of the African child. Speak to us more about how you're wanting to achieve this.
That medium of audiovisual is so powerful in creating identity and self-confidence in people, which is why, countries like America use it so much and use it so well, because it does create a self-identity. And I think as South Africans, it's important for us and Africans in general to be very, very, very cautious about the images we put out of ourselves, because they tell the story back to us of who we are. So if we only put out stories of showing ourselves as gangsters or as thieves or as thugs or as drug dealers, in fiction, what are we saying to ourselves about who we are? When we know in our society we are doctors, we are teachers, we are nurses, we are caretakers. We're such a big spectrum of people, and like you say, even with your other guests, of survivors and people who overcome. And so for me, in terms of building the next generation of children, I would love the next generation that comes, to be able to grow up having seen images that are empowering, that give them a sense of pride in who they are as Africans, and a sense of hope that they could actually conquer anything that they put their mind to.
Thank you for creating the stories and being those images that need to be represented right now. We appreciate it, Busisiwe. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
An incredible South African filmmaker who has traveled the world, lived abroad, but decided that African stories are worthy to be told. Head over to Afternoon Express's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Use that hashtag Afternoon Express and share what one of your favorite Busisiwe works are.